Stress and Mental Health, powered by TutorEye. I'm your host, Amandeep. I'm leading academics here at TutorEye. We are 24/7 e-learning platform, helping students achieve their academic goals through expert online tutoring and written help services. So joining us today, although I would certainly like all of you to also introduce yourself and speak a bit about what you're all working on currently. But let me give a quick introduction to all of you. So joining us as panelist is Dr. Reine. She's a medical resident at Center Hospital University of Notre Dame. Then we have joining as guest speaker, Ms. Stephanie Kalina. Stephanie is an award-winning writer with a focus on travel and hospitality. She's also an English and writing tutor. Stephanie, welcome to the call.
Thank you.
Then we also have Ms. Madhuri Varma, who is also joining us as a guest speaker. Madhuri is a mentor for academics, career, and self-development. She's also a technical project manager and awardee as a Rising Star 2019 at Barclays. Madhuri, welcome to the call.
Thank you so much, Amandeep.
Thank you. Joining us as panelist is Mr. Jean-Paul. John is a medical student at Lebanese American University and is also a biology tutor here at TutorEye. John, welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. So next joining is our in-house speaker, Ms. Kanika Thakran. Kanika is leading marketing and search engine optimization activities here at TutorEye. Kanika, welcome to the call.
Thank you so much.
Also joining, last but not the least, we have Ms. Arlene Grace, who is a molecular and cell biology major and University of California, San Diego. Arlene, welcome to the call.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Thank you. Thank you. So I would really like to welcome everybody to this webinar on exam-induced stress and mental health. Before we kick off the webinar, I would quickly want all of you to introduce yourself. Feel free to also share what you're currently working upon. Let's start with Dr. Reine.
Hello, everyone. I am Reine Marie. So I have a bachelor degree in human fundamental sciences and a doctorate in medicine. I am currently the chief resident of the nephrology team at the hospital, and I'm a third-year resident in nephrology.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Reine. We are looking forward to having you answer some very difficult questions, I'm sure about it. Moving on to Stephanie. Would you like to share something about yourself?
Sure. I worked in urban education for a total of 12 years before I embarked upon a freelance writing career in 2010, and then I began tutoring in 2015.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Madhuri, would you like to share something about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. Really excited to be here. I'm actually a computer engineer turned MBA professional who last year started her own YouTube channel. And since then, I have been creating content on topics of higher education, career progression, and personality development. Along with content creation, I also provide personal consultations to students and higher education aspirants, along with also conducting digital education courses.
Wonderful. We have one more guest speaker, Ms. Katerina Belle. Katerina, welcome to a call. Thank you so much for joining us at such a short notice. Dear panel, sharing about Katerina, she's a PhD in linguistics and has more than 25 years of teaching experience, both at secondary school and university teaching. Katerina, how are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me, Amandeep.
Awesome. So moving on, thank you for a wonderful introduction, Madhuri. John, would you like to please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today. So I'm Jean-Paul. I have a bachelor's degree in biology from the Lebanese American University, and I'm currently undergoing my medical studies, also in Lebanon. I also joined TutorEye maybe 3 months ago as a biology tutor.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. Arlene, would you like to share something about yourself? What are you working on?
Hi, yes. So I am currently an undergraduate student at UCSD, like Amandeep says. Right now, I haven't been too preoccupied with much, just working on school and, of course, making content on LinkedIn whenever I can, sharing experiences about me being a person of color, especially a woman in STEM pursuing, just a degree at a predominantly white university. So I'm happy to be sharing my experiences and hopefully they resonate with others too who can relate.
Excellent. Arlene, delighted to have you here. Kanika, would you like to share something about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. I'm thrilled to actually be a part of this panel because I think there are brilliant folks joining the panel, and I'm really looking forward to learning. But I come from an SEO background. I've been into the SEO world for over a decade now. And other than doing SEO today, I am bringing my yoga knowledge. I am also a certified yoga instructor. And in my personalized classes, I focus on the mental health check-in of my students at the very beginning. So if a class is like, let's say 1 hour, so for the first 15 minutes, we spend checking in on what's the state of mind. And I think it'd be very insightful to take learnings from here and share with my students also.
Wonderful. So guys, especially Katerina, Kanika is also leading SEO and marketing. So I think we need to have a discussion with her post-call. Kanika, we need to discuss a lot of things with you separately.
Absolutely.
So jokes apart, let's move on to our very first question, and that is for Dr. Ran. Before we jump onto the why, let's understand what is stress and what can it potentially lead to, Dr. Ran?
Okay, so stress is our body's reaction to pressures, mental pressures, physical pressures, environmental pressures, etc. So stress, we have many types of stress. First of all, the physical stress, which comes from trauma, from pollution, or even from intense working. We have the psychological stress that comes from negative feelings such as sadness, fear, or even jealousy. We have the psychosocial stress that comes from the lack of support in our environment, that comes from difficult relationships that we might have. And we have the we call it the psychospiritual stress, when people start to suffer from problems, from crisis and questioning, for example, our values, etc. So normally, we were able to prove that stress will cause the release of some hormones, such as the cortisol, the growth hormone, for instance, prolactin, catecholamine, etc. So these hormones are able to cause many problems, mainly endocrine problems in our body, such as diabetes, such as heart problems, such as increased blood pressure. Some people may even suffer from skin problems like eczema. Girls and women may have menstrual problems. All of these are related to stress and its effect on our body.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Ran. Moving on to Stephanie, two questions for you. Number one is, how can parents support kids who are already stressed? That's one. One more. Secondly is, you must have seen kids stressing about exams. According to you, is that a good stress?
Well, I'll start with the first things. Parents can support each other. And piggybacking on what was just said, you really can't underestimate the importance of diet. And just last week, I interviewed a doctor, and his name was Michael Platt, and he touched upon adrenaline, and he said that some children have more adrenaline than others. And he suggested, some common sense approaches, such as high protein, cleaning up the diet, and things like that to keep, excess adrenaline from being produced during these tests. He also said that, which I found was interesting, he mentioned MCT oil in cooking. That stands for medium chain triglycerides, which are not really prevalent in the Western diet. And he said it's an easily digestible oil. It it helps boost brain power, and it manages blood sugar. So you have to keep in mind when you send your children off to take the test to school that they're sent off with, not processed foods in the morning, but things that will boost their blood, their brain power and maintain their blood sugar at an even keel. So, and I do have, you asked me if I have students who are stressed about taking tests, right? Yeah. Yes, I have one in particular that she's always stressing, but she comes from a place of no. She says things a lot like, I can't do this. I don't do that. This is not something I enjoy doing. And I try to explain to her that we don't want to feed that negative energy. I think I told her it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when we give ourselves that sort of talk. It gives too much energy to that sort of thought. And, unfortunately, here's the thing, though, she's a middle school student, and that's when anxiety is the most pronounced from what I've seen throughout my tutoring career here. So,
right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Moving on to Madhuri, what are your experiences around managing and coping with stress?
With me as an individual or with the students that I teach?
You can share, maybe as an individual.
So I'll share both aspects. So having gone through an MBA degree myself, I know how much of pressure it is when you are in a high performing environment where everyone around you seems to be understanding and getting things, whatever is being taught or whatever is being asked of them, they're like on top of their game. And at times then you take a step back and you start wondering, okay, like, am I dumb? I'm amidst all of these high performing people. But little do you know that others are also feeling the same thing. It's just that they don't share it out. It's all about, fake it till you make it. And because that entire environment is like, and no one is sharing that, everyone is just internalizing it, it causes additional stress. And then as Stephanie had highlighted, it just, as Renee had highlighted, it just, internalizes and starts affecting your body. So personally for me, that had happened during my master's. I ended up, because of a lot of stress, I ended up gaining a lot of weight. It affected it actually led to me developing an autoimmune disorder as well. So it went to that extent, which is pathetic. I mean, had I just spoken at that time or gone easy on myself, things would have been better. So the same experience I try to propagate to my students and my mentees today, because I see them going through that same journey and the same process. Being a consultant for higher education, these are students who are targeting masters, MBA, moving abroad for their studies. So having gone through that journey myself, I see them making those same mistakes. And with my own personal story, I keep telling them that, okay, you're not alone. There are a lot of people out there who went through this, and that seems to calm them down a little bit. And then obviously personal experiences shared with them makes them feel a little better.
Awesome. Wonderful insight. Katerina, I'm really interested in understanding your coping mechanism when it gets stressful, with maybe Vladimir or maybe your students.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Amandeep. Well, first of all, let's admit that stress has been around for all the time, and it will be around for all the time. It's a part of our survival mechanism. So we do deal with stress on a regular basis. And the question here is how to be able to manage it well. And particularly connected to school education and children, definitely stress related to taking exams. Number one problem here is not only it impacts negatively the performance during the test, it really messes up the whole mental health. So I think we need to kind of learn to address the issue on a level of family, school, and society. Parents can support their children by saying, I love you anyway. No matter what grade you bring to me on that test, I still love you. Okay, because a lot of times children get to that anxiety related to exams because they're afraid to underperform for their parents. The same thing at school. Teachers need to communicate the message that assessment is just a tool, it's not a goal. Okay, so we don't live our life in order to pass all tests or score high. It is a tool to navigate, right? So it's just for you to know where you are right now, what are the deficiencies are, and what to do next. So any grade or assessment is, in this sense, is just feedback. There is no such a thing as failure. It's all feedback. So this is what needs to be communicated to students at school by teachers and also by society. We shouldn't be measuring human beings by numbers of scores and GPA and IQ tests. That shouldn't exist. Because all these tests, well, first of all, they don't really measure all aspects of a human being. We have other talents. How can we measure our, talent in music or in dancing? So these things are never taken into account, but although they do exist in society. So to answer your question now, how I manage with stress, I just try to have a correct attitude to it. Okay, this is happening now. Okay, I will be dealing with this one day at a time. We're really right now live in a very stressful world with a lot of changes and uncertainty. What we can do, we can still meditate, we can still breathe, we can still find other joys in life and live one day at a time. If I don't perform well today, I will do better tomorrow. But today I get this particular score, and this particular score reflects it's my best today. But again, I will have chances to do better in the future. So I do the same thing with my students. I teach them that there is no such a thing as failure. Your grade is never an indication of your talent, of your success. GPA is not the goal in life. There are other aspects in life to be fully enjoyed, and we're born to be happy, not to score high. Okay, so this is kind of how I view my views on stress. Stress is healthy to a certain degree, but definitely becoming absolutely traumatizing in other cases. And
Right, very true. Very interesting insight, Katerina. Especially assessment is a tool and IQ is not a measure of success. I think all true teachers understand this, but maybe that expectation needs to come from parents. But anyways, so we'll explore more on this also. John, we understand that you tutor online. In your experience, have anyone, maybe a learner, ever shared with you about the stresses they are going through?
Yeah, actually, I had one particular student. I remember him. He had an exam coming up. It was not online, so I was teaching in private live at the time. And the student was very worried. They had a big exam coming up. It was similar to the SAT, but something specifically in Lebanon. And they were not really feeling confident at all. And I resonated with the student because, I mean, we all went through this, and I still go through this personally whenever I have an exam coming up. One important thing that Madhuri mentioned, one major issue, I think, is that we as people tend to have these reference points, which are the people who are around us. Like, I see my friends have finished half the material for the exam, and I haven't done like 2 chapters yet. And why am I lagging behind? Am I not competent enough? Maybe I'm not meant to be here. And this is one really major problem. But I always like to think about one sentence that one of my professors in college was telling us in class. And that's your exam grade is really 50% of you studying and being well prepared, and 50% of self-confidence. So if you go into an exam and you really don't feel confident, if you go into the exam and you don't have support from the people around you, from your parents, just like Katerina was mentioning, from your friends, even if your friends are going through the same thing, then you will need to get that confidence boost. And I was happy because I was able to share this insight with the student and share the personal struggles I sometimes did go through in exams, and the student ended up doing very well. And so I think this is one particular area where all students really need to focus on. I am worthy. This is my place to be, or else I wouldn't have been admitted to the college. I wouldn't have been accepted to take the class. So I really need to feel that I'm able to do that, and we're halfway there.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Dr. Ran, a quick question for you. Can kids or maybe learners identify if they are stressed? Is it possible to sort of self-diagnose it?
Of course, there are a lot of signs that people can notice, whether it's the student himself or even the parents, the friends, etc. For instance, we can see a lot of behavioral changes in people and students who are stressed. We can see that they tend to stay lonely. They like to avoid things. They don't like to spend time with others anymore. We can see even some physical changes, such as weight gain, weight loss, loss of appetite, etc. We might, the student might go through gastrointestinal problems, for instance, stomach pain, stomach ache, diarrhea or constipation. A lot of them even suffer from either lack of sleep or excessive sleep. Some of them may even feel a lot of anger, a lot of fear, anxiety. So yeah, there are a lot of ways to, we can see the changes in ourselves. And if we are in an environment that truly cares about us, even those who are around us are able to notice these changes in us. And it's important to always look not only about ourselves, but even like take care of others. Sometimes they are not noticing, so it's our job to tell them that, hey, something isn't right. What is wrong with you today?
Right, right. Thank you so much for that. Arlene, there's also something called peer pressure. So what do you think about it? Have you also faced something around it?
Yeah, peer pressure is something I was introduced to first in middle school. I think it mostly came from the knowledge of my parents telling me that if it doesn't feel right in your gut, don't do it. And it's kind of the whole notion of, if your friends were to jump off a bridge, would you do it too, kind of thing. So don't have the same mindset with like things like drugs or drinking. And so I even face that even now, especially when it comes to things like here in a big university, they don't necessarily know what to do with all this freedom, and so they abuse it often. And I think a great example of me facing peer pressure is when I was invited to go to a party, but it was like past midnight, and there'd be drinking involved, and I'm personally not the kind to go out to all these social events. So I kindly turn them down and just say, oh, I have a test to study for, or I have some other plans. And I think that's a lot better than suffering the consequences of what might happen if I were to just simply oblige and say yes to whatever they have planned. And it's been pretty difficult, I'd say, especially as a people pleaser who tends to say yes to everything. But by doing so and saying no to certain things, not only does it make a great establishment of my own boundaries and trying to put that forth for my own self-care, but it just shows that I'm looking out for myself and what's best for, my own good, my own sake, so that I don't have to deal with people who have some other different agenda in mind.
Okay, sure. Moving on. Thank you so much. Kanika, in your views and experience, how can teachers support students who are stressed? I'm sorry if I'm throwing random questions.
I think as a teacher, you play a significant role no matter what the setting is. It can be a yoga class, it can be a one-on-one tutoring, it can be a class.
Mhm.
But I think teachers are considered as like role models, and your students look up to you. So like that's where I really feel establishing a personalized relationship with your students and knowing them and letting them know that you're just not here to give them instructions on what to do and how to get good scores, but also to kind of be there for them when they're feeling low or when they're falling behind. And as a teacher, if you can address and pick up on those signs, I think a student feels much more comfortable. I've noticed that in my yoga classes very often when a student is falling behind, and one may be very flexible but the other one is not able to get into the pose, that can be stressful. And people may stretch themselves beyond their limits just because of that peer pressure that Arlene just talked about. So I, as a yoga teacher, need to pay attention to every student, their body type, their abilities, and where they're coming from and what their mental health status is today. So I think paying personalized attention and building that relationship with your students can go a long way for you as a teacher to grow, as well as your students to feel comfortable and be less stressed in class.
Amandeep, you're muted.
Amandeep.
I'm so sorry. So, Madhuri, I have a question for you. Then, Stephanie, I'm going to come back to you.
Okay.
Madhuri, I also want to have your take on how do you deal with peer pressure? Maybe your advice.
It's pretty much like what Renee mentioned. Sorry, Stephanie mentioned. I actually don't go out, as much as other people would like to. For example, if there's a party going on, I would actually say that I actually usually use my parents as an excuse that okay, my mom won't allow, my father won't allow, and I just use them as a shield, and they are like completely okay with it. And they in fact had also at times said that if you don't want to do something, just put it on us. We're completely okay with it. Just put us as a shield and then say that okay, yeah, they are not allowing it. So I don't actually give in to peer pressure. But again, as someone who really has difficulty saying no, I have come a long way from that point. For example, Friends is such a famous series. Game of Thrones, such a famous series. I hadn't watched those series after probably I was done with undergraduation. Friends I watched during my MBA, which was like almost quarter of my life. And the whole reason I didn't want to do that was because if someone around me is putting a lot of hype on something, or giving a lot of importance to something non-academically, that doesn't affect me as much. But when it comes to academics, it does tend to affect me. And the way that I handle it is, it used to be difficult in the earlier stages of my life, but now it has come to a point where I think back that okay, how is this actually going to impact me if I don't score 100 on this particular exam, or if I'm not getting the top notch job that is out there. How is it going to affect me? What are the pros, what are the cons? And then more often than not, the pros outweigh the cons, or I am able to explain to myself that the cons that are there for not doing this are not as life impacting or as life changing as people might make it seem. So I tend to do that analysis, but it's definitely like a process that you need to follow, and something that improves over time.
Amazing. Going back to Stephanie, and I think I really want an answer to this, and I was looking forward to this answer. So, Stephanie, in your experience, what are the top two problems around stress or maybe mental health that a lot of parents have shared with you?
Well, basically, they have liked how I've dealt with their children as far as advising them against negative self-talk, requiring them to perform according to their ability, and not sort of giving into, like, I do have one child that sort of manipulates things a little bit by crying each time. We work through that. We don't spend too much time on it. And, we kind of I'd rather not give that energy either. And she calms down pretty quickly then. And, what I say to her, I say, it's not the end of the world. And, and that seemed to resonate with her for some reason. So I think, these sort of techniques you learn as you go. I have been doing this for 6 years, and of course, everyone's different. And she has been my biggest challenge, but her mother has said to me that she wouldn't be where she is today were it not for me. And I also tell tutors, why don't you just give it a shot first? This mother came to me and said, no one can work with my daughter. Do you feel like doing it? And I said, well, let's give it a shot. I would rather not say no. I'd like to try, And so basically, and I've had her for a year and a half now. And I've seen her make great strides. And she's going to be 12 soon. And to me, we're very close. And I'm very close with the parents. And they, I guess they've been through other tutors who didn't sort of make it through more than a few sessions with her, because you have to power through things, and that's what I tell the child too. We have to power through this, So that's sort of how I've handled the most stressful one that I deal with. So, yeah.
Yeah. Arlene, we can all see that you're very busy and you're attending the webinar on the go. So kudos to you. Great going.
Thanks.
Awesome. So, Katerina, coming back to you, would also really like to have your comments on the top problems that you have experienced, or maybe the parents have shared with you.
One of the problems I experienced teaching at my university, which is it's a highly selective university, and students that come there used to be, number one, number two person scoring in their schools or in their classes. But when they come to our university, all these overachievers, some of them continue to score high, but some of them no longer do that. Mm-hmm. Because it's just a different environment, different expectations. And those who don't meet their own expectations really go through a lot of struggle. Mental health issues are on the rise. We have never had anything like this before. Mm-hmm. So now it's really difficult for them to be able to understand what is going on, like why they're no longer scoring, they're not an A student anymore. So right. What comes handy here from my experience is that really to start understanding themselves. We need to understand ourselves very well in order to function at the optimum level. And this is what kind of, we call it intrapersonal intelligence. It's how well I know myself, how well I can regulate myself, how well I can manage my feelings, why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, what I'm doing now with this stress. Am I going to study longer hours, or maybe I'm going to, number one suggestion I do for give my students is, let's learn to manage time, okay? Because a lot of stress is related to poor time management skills. And particularly when they come to university and no longer they have their parents tell them when to go to bed and when to wake up and things like that. So many of them struggle on that level. So procrastination, studying right before the exam, that's a big issue for everyone, many students. So we're really trying to see, okay, if you manage your time well, you manage your life. If you manage your life, you feel satisfied, and it means that you are controlling your stress level. So that's kind of one of the techniques that I implement with my students, and I often work with freshmen. So as soon as they enter my class, I'll say, okay, number one thing that's going to help you in your studies in college is learning how to manage your time.
Wonderful. Always a delight, Katerina, listening to you, and Stephanie and Madhuri and everybody else. But procrastination is something I'm also guilty of. Yeah, so it's there. But before we proceed, viewers who have just joined us, welcome to a webinar on exam-induced stress and mental health powered by TutorEye. I'm your host, Amandeep, and we have some amazing speakers joining us from Lebanon, US, and India. Moving on to our next question, and that is for you, Dr. Reine. What mental health problems can continuous stress may also lead to?
Okay, so mental health has been, stress has been linked to many mental health issues. mainly depression and anxiety, because now let's all agree on one point, which is stress is normal. It's a normal emotion, and it's important for everyone to feel stress from time to time. However, when stress becomes continuous and when we can no longer control stress in our lives, this is when it becomes a real issue. So a lot of people who really who were not able to control stress developed anxiety, generalized anxiety, and eventually depression. So yeah, it's been linked. And may I here add one point for like a tip, or to continue what Katerina was saying concerning the transition from school to university. I really remember on my first day at university, a professor told us that the more rapidly that we are able to adapt, the better we will achieve. So the first day I didn't understand. I was 18 and I really didn't understand what he was saying. But as I grew up, I really felt that what he is saying is true. The more we adapt quickly, the more we are able to achieve and feel more relaxed and more focused. So also it would be really important for parents to teach their kids to really adapt and not only be comfortable in our comfort zone. I think this will truly help kids, especially in universities, to feel less stressful and to be more responsible and function better.
Very interesting indeed. Adapt quickly, and important for parents to teach kids how to adapt. Again, the question is how do parents do that? We'll come back to that. Kanika, according to you, what are signs of good mental health?
Sure. I think I definitely don't come from a medical background, but then being as a teacher and conducting these classes, there are a few clues that I really look for. So when I'm teaching a small class or even a personalized session, one of the things I am always checking in with the student is, what is your readiness to learn today? Are you ready to kind of progress to the next level or the next pose, or kind of take on new things? And I think the readiness to accept change or to try new things gives me a clue that they feel excited, they want to take on challenges, and they're not stressed about their current state. The second thing that tells me that they are feeling good about themselves is, even on a low day, when they come to my class and they open up and share whatever they're feeling, it could be negative, positive, ugly, beautiful, whatever the feeling is, when they present it and open up to me, that's when the self-realization, I think Katerina talked about it as well as Dr. Reine said, being self-aware. When they can share the feeling, I think that's the point where my student knows they are stressed, and the realization of it is step one towards addressing the stress problem. And I think the last one would be, whenever I do that a lot with my students, whenever they're doing a particular pose, I'll tell them, let's hold it for 30 seconds. And then when I see them doing good, I might say, let's bump it up, let's add another 15 seconds. And students who feel really stressed might not accept it and, leave the pose, or, maybe exhale out really frustratedly and stuff. Those are signs that I pick on. So a student who blends in with the new instructions and adapts quickly to the new change that I've just recommended, I think that's a good sign that they're feeling good about how the class is going or how their mental status is.
Excellent. So Arlene, can you take a question? Because you look like you're traveling countries right now.
I'm good to talk, no worries. I just got to my next class.
Okay, so I'll pause your question. I'll pass on the next one. So Madhuri, would you also like to comment on signs of good mental health? Your take on it?
Yeah, it shows a lot in how students take feedback in personal classes or even in a group setting. For example, if they're making a particular mistake and I happen to tell them that, okay, look, this is how it was supposed to be done, the way that they respond to it or the way that they react to it really shows how much of stress they're taking on that particular thing, or whether they're open to incorporating whatever is being advised to them in terms of solving questions. So that really is one way. Another is people repeating the same mistakes again and again, and then every time it's pointed out, you either hear a sigh or you hear some dejection in their voice. That also comes on to show that, yeah, they're probably going through a lot of stress with this particular regard, and then try speaking to them in that regard.
Okay, okay. So coming back to Arlene, we are good to go. Okay, so my question to you is, what has been your stress response? How important is it to vent when you're stressed?
For me, when I'm stressed, what I tend to do is just take a lot of time for self-care. I mean, especially when all my classes fill up and it seems like there's a million things I need to do. What I like to do is honestly just take a nap. I think I'm very sleep deprived being a university student. And so honestly, I think not a lot of us take the time to just exist, whether it be like just doing something we love doing, like origami or playing a sport. You know, when we are stressed and feeling anxious and just overloaded with all this pressure, we tend to forget the things that we enjoy doing. And so I like to remind my friends, go do something that makes you feel happy, makes you feel inspired, that gives you purpose that you enjoy doing. Because when we are overloaded by work or school or pressures from the family, you know, it can be really easy to forget the things that make us smile and the things that make us happy. So that's what I would do, especially in my case, because honestly, being back in a learning environment, being back in person at school, it's very anxiety inducing. I don't think a lot of university students really recognize how great of an accomplishment it is for us to be here after having a majority of last year being all online. And to transition from a virtual learning environment to an in-person takes a lot of work because we don't remember what it's like to be in a lecture hall full of students or to make those personalized connections with our teachers and professors and figure out which study methods work best. You know, we're really having to reinvent ourselves so that we can succeed in a post-COVID world. So it's necessary for us to go ahead and be kind to ourselves, forgive ourselves often. You know, we're the first, I think, of many generations that have never lived through a pandemic. So there is no right or wrong way to cope with that. And so that's what I do when I'm stressed. I just remember that we're all in this together. It's not just me. There are millions of other people across the globe feeling the same emotions and uncertainty and confusion as I am. So just as long as we keep that in mind, you know, we'll still stay strong and we'll get through this together.
Brilliant. I think one of the best solutions, just take a nap or practice origami. Very relevant. Excellent. Switching to John. So John, according to you, which is the most difficult mental health disorder to treat and why?
So, I really don't think we can just say that one mental health disorder in particular is difficult to treat or not, because really every mental disorder or every mental issue for that matter, it doesn't need to be a disorder. It takes a toll on the person, and as long as it takes that toll, then it is important and it is difficult, and we need to deal with that. So I think mental health problems are very different one another, and really need to look at each one of them as an important thing to tackle. But since we're really talking about exam stress, exam anxiety, and the possible anxiety and depression that may be caused by that, I think what Dr. Reine really talked about is how widespread these two particular mental health issues can be. And so I'm pretty sure that anxiety is the most common mental health problem in the world. And so it's really important to really think about that and tackle that. One thing that Arlene mentioned, and I really love this, is to just, stop. Stop, reflect on what you're going through, what you're feeling. So it's been 2 hours, I've been going through this chapter, I feel stressed, I am not comfortable with this, but no, I want to continue because I have my exam tomorrow and I have no time to waste. This will not be productive. This is not healthy for your studies. This is not healthy for your own mental well-being. Just stop, reflect, understand what your body is telling you. I'm tired. I probably really need a nap. I probably really need to go to maybe that party that my friends have recommended. Read the book I've wanted to read, even though I feel like I am compelled to study because I have no time to go through that. And so anxiety, in my opinion, especially in whatever we're going through with the pandemic and with exams and with the situation of the world in general, is one of the most important really mental health issues.
Right. Thank you so much for that, John. We just have 10 more minutes to go. This one is an open question for all. And the question is, are there any foods that can help fight stress that you have personally experienced? So not foods that you've read about, but something that you have tried and you have felt that this is helpful. And let's not include chocolates in that, please. So anyone would like to have a go at that?
I think
Sure.
I can take start.
Okay, Kanika, you can go forward.
Thank you. So I think one of the things that has worked really well for me is sometimes you're reading so much information about, healthy food, what to adapt. And, I tried everything from quinoa to all the crazy stuff that's healthy. But I think one thing that really has worked well for me for managing stress is going back to roots. What did I eat when I was a child, and did I enjoy it? And does that give me happiness? And I think going back to that same formula, whether it's a pastry or, a home cooked roti with the cereal, I think I just enjoy that. And that is soul food for me. And it just relieves the stress straight off.
Wonderful. I think somebody else also wanted to pitch in.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that chamomile tea tends to help as well for a relaxing sort of situation. And I also have to mention the importance of if you want to have some sleep, do keep in mind that dark chocolate has caffeine in it, because I recently became caffeine sensitive, so I couldn't drink a coffee at 9 a.m. and not have my heart pounding out of my chest at 11 p.m. when I went to sleep. So I go on vacation and I started eating some chocolate because I was going off the diet. And I realized that I was going to be up till 3 or 4 in the morning. And I tried to pinpoint that. And I'm like, my goodness, those 2 small pieces of chocolate that I was eating before bed hampered my sleep immensely. So you may have a caffeine sensitivity that you don't know about. And if you are trying to sleep and it's vital to performing well the next day, you probably should try and cut that out. Not that sugar's good for you anyway, but yeah, it's just something to be mindful of. And another thing, I ate a piece of wonderful olive oil chocolate cake. And I was up again until 4:30 in the morning. This was for dessert. And then I realized, the chefs put espresso powder in the chocolate cake to enhance the flavor. So that's another thing you have to be mindful of if you're caffeine sensitive. So
awesome. So I'm pausing this. I really need to understand this. Stephanie or Katerina or maybe Ali, do you know what a roti is?
I do. Yes. They're very good. Yes.
Okay. So Katerina, have you tried a roti?
I don't think so, but I did want to comment. I would like to comment just a little bit later on something not food related, but definitely it's something that helps to combat stress.
Wonderful. Ali, do you know what a roti is?
What my routine is for stress
No,
management?
Roti.
so
It's like a
Oh,
is it like a samosa but with like peas and spicy and
no,
yeah, I know what that
it's
is.
not a
potatoes?
samosa.
Oh,
It's
it's
more
a
like a
flatbread.
tortilla. It's more
Is
like
it
a
you
tortilla.
flatbread? I gotcha. Okay.
Can you write the word in chat so I can see it, because I'm not sure I understood.
ROTI.
ROTI. That's simple.
Yeah.
So it's a tortilla. Madhuri, you're right. Great. Thank you so much for that. So again, another question for you, Stephanie. So Stephanie, have you also come across a student who was stressed? Can you tell us one or two strategies that you actually used to help and assist?
Well, you know, some of this stuff is just simplistic, you know, and you're like, well, if I use this, isn't this a little simplistic? And you think about twice about it, but you know, just telling them to breathe in, you know, 3 times before we tackle the next problem. You know, that sometimes help. And, you know, like I said before, if you say to the child, it's not the end of the world, you got this wrong, that's okay. That's what practice is for. And I try to communicate that the more you focus, the more you practice, the better your self-esteem will get because you will have more confidence. So it all builds upon each other, all these things. And, you know, I was trying to find out too what helps children. And I learned about a 2013 study that said writing your fears down the day before the test and then putting it aside will make you perform better the next day. And I guess it's because you can focus on one thing at a time, not the stress and the test. And then there was a new study by Harvard University that said changing a student's mindset about anxiety itself could also boost test performance because you would tell the child to reinterpret your physical symptoms like sweaty palms or a racing pulse and reinterpret that to mean excitement as opposed to fear. Well, when they did that, the test study came out that those children also performed much, much better than the other ones. So, you know, these are simplistic little things that are easily integrated into the classroom, I think, that would help these students. So,
thank you so much, Stephanie. Yes, John.
I just want to add, if I may, one strategy I had experience with, if that's fine.
Of course, go on.
Okay, so I think this may come out silly, but it's called power posing. So it just means that, you know, how Superman stands up, like with shoulders that are straight and like your hands on your waist and your feet are spread apart, just like you're wearing a cape, just like Superman. And I really love to mention this in particular because so I was a trainer in a Model United Nations program, and we had delegates who at the time of the conference did not feel like they wanted to give speeches. And that was the whole point of the program, you know, to just go there and give a speech, represent the country. And so as their trainer and director at the time, I asked everyone to just stand up and do the power pose for like 1 minute, 60 seconds. And a lot of them like laughed. It was funny actually as a moment, but then everyone who felt stressed and did not feel like giving a speech ended up giving a speech, and they actually were pretty good. And so I think this really helps. If you don't feel like doing it alone, you know, in front of the class, just, I know, go to somewhere where there's nobody watching and do it on your own, but just do it. You'll feel more confident and more relieved.
Wonderful.
If
John,
I
thank you
can
so
just
much.
add a little bit to that.
Please.
What John has just mentioned, I'm also training my students to give presentations and body language. There's actually a research that our body is giving information to our mind. Okay, so we really have to pay attention to our bodies as well. That power pose is excellent. I'm doing the same thing before they start the presentation. Get in your power pose. So this really works. At the same time, I wanted to share quickly one more technique that's quite helpful. a lot of students are really sitting and studying and, over exercising and exhausting their mental health, their mental body. We need to make sure that there is a balance between mental and physical. So quite often I would say, right before exam, find time, go outside, play, walk, swim, jump, do something physically that really relaxes your brain, allows it to function normally. We can't go to a gym and, completely exhaust ourselves physically, but this is what we do when we study for exams. So this is something that they need to understand. There should be a balance. If the balance is there, your brain is performing in its best possible way.
Mm-hmm.
So not only the food you eat, but also allow your physical body be active, or at least a little closer to the activity level you have for your mental life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also something. Oops.
Please.
There's also something that I also tried on my one child, and she seemed to be responsive to it. And I wonder if someone here probably would know about. It's called setting an intention and tapping. And you would say, "I'm going to do well today," and then you go down and to your chest, and it just gets them into the mode of setting an intention of what they're going to accomplish today and how they're going to do it well. And that was another technique I employed with the little girl that I have who has issues. And I think she felt a little silly at first, but now she's sort of warming to it and, interested. And I'm allowing her to set her own intention as opposed to me saying what her intention should be. So,
And something else too I wanted to add is the fact that, especially like after all the exams and once you have time to go ahead and, de-stress and relax, another stress management tip I have is just treat yourself as if you were still like your 6 or 7-year-old self. Treat yourself like you were still a little kid. If you were a child you were watching over, what's some way you would do to go ahead and cheer them up? You go watch a cartoon or a movie, or you treat yourself to your favorite food, your favorite meal. It's literally just about being your own best friend and saying that if a friend were reacting to stress in the way I was, how would I show that compassion for myself? How would I, you know yourself best. You know how to make yourself happy in ways that others don't. So I just say, like, go watch your favorite cartoon again and relive those nostalgic memories. Go ahead and, learn something new, do something that you never had the time to do that you do now, because I think that's really going to pay off in the long run. Rather than, running the whole way, you do want to just take that sprint and give yourself a break when you need it most.
Excellent. So we are just left with 2 minutes, and I have one last question, and it's going to be an open question for everybody. And the question is a bit tricky one, but again, I'm anyways going to throw it. Is it true that introverts are more susceptible to stress as compared to extroverts? Anybody would like to take that question? Maybe
it could be true, it could not be true as well. I have seen introverts deal really well with stress, and I've also seen extroverts have stress and still not share it with anyone, because they are these bubbly, fun, cheery people talking around, and then they just have the stress internalized because that's not the kind of thing that they are known for, or that they're not comfortable sharing with. So it could be either ways. Every single person or individual is susceptible to stress in an equal manner, I would say.
Very true.
And I would add just very quickly that both introverts and extroverts have their own stresses. Or maybe they're still susceptible. It's just they deal with it differently, and also different things stress them out.
Right. Thank you so much. Great. So anybody else would like to share any insight around that question? Okay, so we are at the end of our webinar. I'm sure it will help a lot of parents and teachers with some pointers. We did try to keep it limited to as much as strategies, which can be doable, which can be understandable. We would like to thank all our panelists and speakers for your participation. Thank you all once again. But before we hit that quit button, let's hear from all of you once again, starting with Stephanie. Would you like to share any closing remarks with our viewers, Stephanie?
Oh, well, I guess reiterating what I said, pay attention to diet. That plays a big part in your overall performance. Apply the simple stress reduction techniques and reframe students' mindsets from fear to excitement. And that those three tips might go a long way in improving performance and calming fears and anxiety. So.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Katerina, would you like to share any closing remarks with us?
Well, I think we've had a nice discussion, and I really enjoyed the input of all panelists. Definitely, if we talk about exam-related stress, my number one thing would be change your mindset about it. Again, it's just another thing. Our life is going to test us all the time, and we just need to change and have productive mindset. If that test is going to show great results, great. If no, I will continue improving. Life is full of learning all the time. So there is no end of the world with any test or any exam.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Katerina. Madhuri, would you like to share any closing remarks with us?
Absolutely. If anyone who's listening to this or watching this feels that they might have even an iota of stress, please don't keep it to yourself. Speak it out. It could be to your siblings, it could be to your best friends, parents, friends, absolutely anyone. Just share it with at least one other person, and it will make you feel a lot lighter.
Share and talk about it. Wonderful advice, Madhuri. Thank you so much. Dr. Ann, would you like to share any closing remarks?
First of all, thank you for having me tonight. And I would like to say to everyone who is listening to this that stress is normal. Don't be afraid of feeling stressed. It's completely normal. Everyone feels stress from time to time, but not everyone shares it. So you're not the only one. A lot of people are feeling the same way, and maybe even more. They are just keeping it for themselves. Don't worry, always remind yourselves about all the past experiences where you felt stressed, but it all ended up very well eventually. And most importantly, talk about it, don't keep it to yourselves.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Kanika, would you like to share any closing remarks with us?
Sure, I think I really enjoyed. I learned a few things here. So thanks to everyone who contributed. My closing remarks for people watching this are like specifically students, going for exam. One thing that I've noticed myself is when I'm stressed, I kind of shrink my shoulders up and kind of there's a different way I am like sitting or even breathing. My breath doesn't go all the way to my stomach. So I think checking in on both these points, are you sitting straight with your shoulders rolled back, and are you fully breathing in, exhaling and inhaling? And I think the full breath in itself will help you release the stress.
And I think we can all take some yoga classes from you online. Yeah? I hope you're open to that. At least the breathing exercise and all those things.
Absolutely. We're operating online also, online classes, so anytime.
Wonderful. John, would you like to share any closing remarks?
Sure. So again, first of all, thank you really for having me. It was a great discussion, and thank you everyone for the insights. Just like Madhuri and Ran mentioned, don't be afraid to really seek help. Don't be afraid to feel like you need help, and don't be afraid to seek it. And the second thing I already talked about, but I'll go through it again. It's feel confident. You are an amazing human being. You are an amazing student. And don't let anything, not an exam, not peer pressure, not a bad grade on an exam or a bad performance let you down. You're amazing, and just we all know you are, and we want you to know that too.
Wonderful advice, John. Thank you so much. So this is great. If you need the recording of this webinar, feel free to drop the email in the chat box. We'll share the recording with you all. I would again like to thank our panelists and guest speakers once again for accepting to speak on this very important topic. You can also write to us with your views and suggestions at support@tutoreye.com. TutorEye can help you with all your tutoring needs, any subject, anytime, anywhere. With this note, thank you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, happy learning, have a stress-free life. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.